Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here at Productronica 2023 and I'm joined by Henning from ASMPT and Petra again from KATEK. Thanks for joining me. I wanted to talk a little bit about digital transformation. I feel like we've been talking about this topic and Industry 4.0 for almost a decade now. And when I speak to customers, they talk to me a little bit about the digital dividend, and they're some companies are waiting to see that, some people are seeing it. Do you feel we're making fast enough progress in terms of digital transformation? And where do you see the projects that are actually succeeding? Henning, perhaps you can start from a ASM point of view.
So what we really see is there is a lot of investments being done in capital equipment also, and this has been done a long time ago. So in factories you always will have a lot of which we called old equipment. You will not have the newest equipment, as a matter of fact. And what we see is that companies are really on a very different level of maturity where they are on the journey in digital transformation. And we also see that within companies there are really, each side can also be very different in terms of processes, in terms of capabilities, and even in terms of targets, what they track for. So I believe, where do we see the biggest gains from customers in the moment is also a little bit difficult to answer in general, because given your different position in the maturity curve, your next level also will look different. You know, you always have to ask yourself, what are my targets? Where do I have to go next? And then depending on what your targets and your next is, you might also pick another next step. Yeah, but what we definitely see is a lot of customers investing into and also getting benefits out of it into process automation. This is something we see, also trying to be more autonomous in their processes. And what we also see is benefits in the area which is centered, I would say, around the workforce. How to steer workforce, how to make workforce more intelligent, how to give better information to workforce. This is definitely an area where we see customers succeeding. But again, there is no blueprint, I would say, for any customer, for every site. Do this and you have completed your digital transformation.
Yeah, Petra, when I look at it from a KATEK point of view, there are lots of facets to it. One of the facets we talked about earlier was supply chain. And part of that is giving that information to more and more stakeholders on the factory floor. That really adds value.
Yeah, let's say we as KATEK, as a manufacturer, we have two things here and we have to slice it a little bit, because on the one hand, where we have our own brands like Steka or the Ghost, our electric charging, the white label wall box, there we can go very sharp in doing digitalization, also in the operation. And here really feel, it's volume, and we can do our own things. Yes, and on the other hand, some cases where we are deducted by our customers, and some, let's say, also qualification specifications, there it, as you said, we talk about a decade. So there then it takes a little bit longer, than we are independent and we can do our own things. And I also like to add that I'm personally very proud about the digitalization project we have at KATEK with our white label wall box, which we have set up a fully autonomous production in Czech Republic with our colleagues. So we have an entity in Czech Republic in Horní Sucha, and they really built up after the circuit board, so the PCB. Then we have, let's say, the building, the box build, and the back end. I always call it back end. My colleagues don't like it so much, but I'm not coming from the EMS. So, but the back end is totally fully autonomous, no people inside, and we have 5 testings behind. Okay. So 5 testers in the end, and there is a robot who is dealing all these things. And for me, this is something where and I'm really very proud, because I saw we have given a vision to our team. We told them we want to have that, fully autonomous. We can take this line, bring it either to other entities or wherever, and we are very flexible if we have different customer running on it, if they have different, let's say, packaging their own stuffs, requirements, whatever they look and feel. Yeah. So, and this is something I have really seen how digitalization can go.
Yeah.
On the other hand, where we as a manufacturer go with the, let's say, with the painting from our customer, then we have some specifications. There we are stick to the customer process, and there we have to follow the rules from them.
Yeah, Henning, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because you look at a company like KATEK that has a business both in the white labeled products where they have complete project control, and then they have a high mix mid-volume business on the EMS side. That's a big challenge for digital transformation to operate similarly in those two different spaces.
I would come back and say it depends on the targets. You know, if you are in high volume manufacturing, it's all about automation, because you run the same product for 6 months, so you really have to automate, and then the rest can come a little later. But their automation is the name of the game. And in high mix, and we have many customers in high mix, many of them, especially in the Western region. Yeah? If you take a look there, it's more about this process automation, automatic changeover, quick changeover. It's also about material flow, but it's even more about having control about where is my material, what is the material needed for my next order, how can I optimize several orders. So it's a contradiction, but the targets are different, and you have to adjust your solutions. And just to say this, we have a lot of solutions that are valid for the different spaces, and we have been growing with the high mix industry for a long time. So I believe we also can provide a lot there. Yeah? But it's really depends on the targets, and then you have to adjust what you need for your own business. Yeah?
Let me add, for us important, and KATEK we say we lead the category. So we have, let's say, high variance, small customers, like a manufacturer, and what Henning said is for us the importance is if we go for digitalization, it's not that we cannot or we don't have the capabilities. We have smart people on board, they all can do that. But the trade-off, the investment, the trade-off that you take people out and the manual process will be adapted by some machines or whatever, then you need the trade-off, otherwise it makes no sense. On the other hand, independently in these processes, if we talk about digitalization, by today we try to get the utmost information from our whole operational processes, independently front end or back end. We try to gather the information out to bring it in our system to track, first of all, the traceability, and to track and trace also what we discussed on the supply chain level, so that we have the full transparency.
And for you it's...
That's absolutely the right step, absolutely the right step.
And the manufacturing process, it's central to that, but outside there's supply chain signals down the line and there's demand signals up the line. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and ASMPT are one of the prime capital equipment partners to KATEK, is the importance of aligning those roadmaps and having strategic partnerships, because none of this is done in isolation. You have to really be communicating with each other about what you need and how that can be done, and what your goals are, and what are the measurables there. How do you find those relationships, and how do you develop those strategic partnerships?
So first of all, we internally set up our own strategy. That's what we have done the last months. And then we have clear spots where we say there we want to have strategic partnership. There we need some outside information or outside machineries or software. And there we clear go and look for the right partners. And then let's say, as again leading the category, we need to adapt. We cannot act like the big ones, like you say, 6 months, always the same volume. So here we need to adapt. And this partnership then only goes on both sides. So we have to give our information to our partners that they can adapt their business model to us, always having the trade-off in mind on both parties. Everybody want to earn money. And so out of this we can do a lot in the future, I believe so.
As a company you have to recognize I have to involve partners, I have to be open to partners, I have to transparent to be my partners, and they have to also say we want to be your partner. So this is the first step. Then you have to say in which areas I really need which partners to give more value to our customers, because our customers, they will have not only ASMPT equipment, they will also have maybe competitor equipment. You will see millions of other partners in the factory. You have homegrown software solutions, you have many different software providers in the factory. So I really believe without openness and this is openness on the one side to predefined partners, but also openness to partners you don't know yet is a really big thing. Yeah. We have been driving this, and I'm not sure if you observed this, I would say since 15 years when we started with OIB, our interface open to the world. And then we have driven this more and more, and we are driving this, for example, now also in consortia with IPC, CFX, with Hermes. Yeah. So this openness part, the integration part is really important, because we think the success on the customer side can only be there if the solutions are interchangeable, if they interchange information. You said we store the information along the process chain as the product goes through. I believe this is really key, and without this strategy, the alignment with the partners, and then as a result you get the roadmaps, and then you can disclose with your customers and certain other partners your roadmaps. Yeah. But I would say it's a state of mind almost, this openness.
Yeah, it is. It's complete trust, and we've talked about this before, Petra. You have to have that ecosystem around you. You have to have digital transformation that works throughout the ecosystem, and all the ecosystem partners have to be together. Yeah, because we as KATEK, we have a history. So we are a young company, but most of our M&A targets, they have a history. They have been either a new generation have taken over, and then we bought it, or we have, let's say, some liquidity topics where we have taken over the companies. They have been weak in portfolio or whatever. So every entity brought his own history with them, and out of this we have an installed basis, and our partners needs to be flexible and adaptable to these, let's say, varieties. And we are now bringing stepwise more and more standards inside clear, because we are now going forward to be more efficient in the next years, and only the partners who can help us in these cases, they're the long-term partners. And Henning, that means from your point of view, even with ASMPT as a preferred supplier for placement equipment going forward, you've still got to manage some of the legacy equipment that exists in the facilities they've acquired.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of our challenges. And this is also one of your challenges, I assume, because you still will have a certain equipment. After a certain age, you will have many difficulties to have a data model and a data interface which is sufficient for what you want to do on top of it. So I believe this is a challenge. This is also what you said at the beginning, a hurdle to the digitalization efforts. But again, every side has a different maturity, and you have to see what is the next possible step.
Yeah. And it's a custom development project. Yeah, I like to take another point out of your question. You said the dividend. So, and for us, if we talk about the dividend, and we talk about digitalization, then two things are very important for us. It's the OEE and the delivery time. So when we promise something to our customer and we deliver, then we have to deliver. And these two things we can only measure about our whole operation if we have every digital data out of it. So our partners, whenever they provide data to us, and let's say they have a machine to us, it must be totally comparable with all the others, that we can read the digital flow, so that the value chain and the digital flow follows the value chain, and then we can read it out. That is the one we need, and only with this we will be successful, and we can, let's say, bring a value add into the branch, and that's something we look forward. And I think everybody who offers a captive system is then for us not valuable. It has to be an open system, and you talk about that dividend. It's as important to get it as it is to measure it, and to have the strategy in place to measure it.
But we see at quite a number of customers. So I always say you have to start with your strategy of the business, and then you have to say what is digital transformation going to support the strategy. There's a lot of talk about digital transformation on its own. I don't think there is a digital transformation on its own. It's always linked to the strategy, to the targets, and we see many customers that drive for OEE. Why is OEE good? If your processes are not so stable and you don't have your processes under control, and you have a lot of machine downtime, material is not there, machines waiting for service and maintenance, this you all see in the OEE. The OEE is a good thing to lift the ground floor and to say I reach a certain level. So the OEE is a good starting point, and we definitely see that.
Yeah, and then you have to build on top of that. Thanks so much for talking to me, both of you. It's really fascinating to see not just your individual journeys, but how those journeys meld together and they add value to each other. I think that's really important. Thanks for your time. Thank you.